What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about a really hot topic, suing car dealerships. Now, I've gotten so many messages over the last few months, people asking me, hey, how do I sue a dealership? These guys lied, these guys did me wrong, what should I do, blah, blah, blah. So today I'm going to give you both sides of the story, not only from the consumer side, but as well as the dealership side. And on the consumers, there's a lot of things that you can sue dealerships for, and a lot of things you can't. And dealers, there are a lot of people out there that will sue you just for fun, just to get something for free. And there's also professional scammers out there that literally chase down dealerships just to go after their bond, which I'm going to go into both sides of the story and even tell you some of my personal stories, because even me trying to do legit business, I've personally been sued over 30 times having my dealership and shops, and some of the reasons you guys are going to find are absolutely hilarious. But before I get into the content, if you could do me a huge favor and gently squeeze the like button if you enjoy it, I truly appreciate it. It means a lot. It takes a lot of time out of my day to make these crazy videos and answer comments. So please make sure you do. Also subscribe, follow us on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and let's get into the video. First, I'm going to start off saying, if you go into a dealership, you need to read all the paperwork before you even get started. Even if you don't understand it, that is not legal basis for filing a lawsuit. It is okay to ask the dealer to explain something 3-4 times if you don't know it. And if you don't understand it completely, don't sign the paperwork. Nobody's holding a gun to your head telling you have to buy this car. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and start on some of the things that I see a lot. One of the biggest things is lemon laws. I see in the comments section, I see in all these videos, these guys rip me off, file lemon law. Lemon law is only for brand new cars. 100% only brand new cars, and some cars still under factory warranty. The only way you can qualify for this is if you've taken your car to a factory dealership for either the same problem or multiple problems that will not go away. And even after taking it in 4, 5, 6 times, it takes a lot of work and a lot of headache to get the documentation to send it into that manufacturer, so the factory rep will come out and look at the car, and if they decide to buy it back, they will. I've seen processes take a month, and I've seen processes take 2 years. Lemon law is not easy to get done. So all you people crying that you can't sell a used car and if it breaks within 5 days, it's totally a lemon law. There is no lemon law for used cars. Get that out of your head. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this unfortunately is part of the rules. Now, I see people always wanting to sue dealers because maybe they bought a car and the transmission or something went out. Now, there are a few things you can do to protect yourself. First thing you do is when you get into the contracts, you look for the as-is deal. Every contract will have a paper saying as is. Once you see that, you see if there's any 30-day warranties, any manufacturer's leftover warranty, anything like that on there. That is your coverage for if something happens to the car. If it's, let's say, a car that's beat up that has more miles, and you want to get this Mercedes with 100,000 miles, maybe you should not get that car and step down to maybe a Chevy Malibu with 50,000 miles. But I know people don't care. They want to get the cars they want. So if it doesn't have anything in the as-is sticker, you 100% unfortunately are buying that car as is, and if it breaks the second you leave the dealership, believe it or not, there are no legal ramifications for this. You could file a complaint with the DMV, but as long as the dealer has the signed documentation, there's nothing you can do. Now, even myself, I've done a lot of goodwill things where we don't have a crystal ball. You know, I keep my magic 8 ball to predict how the car market's going, but a lot of times, like I said, we don't have a crystal ball to see what's going to break in a car. Now, I will bend over backwards sometimes to help customers. Hey, you know what, the transmission started slipping. It's not his fault. I'll try to help out. I'll tell you what, I'll buy the parts and put it in there. But that is completely up to the dealer's discretion, unfortunately. So if you file a complaint with the DMV, you're more likely to get somewhere. But if you try to sue him in a court of law, you will lose 100%, because I've literally been through so many of these. I've had people literally take me to court because their car would not pass emissions 1 year after I sold it to them. They said I sold them a lemon because it will not pass smog. And the funny thing was, it was just an O2 sensor. I offered to put it in for free. They just had to buy the part 1 year after purchasing it. So there are people out there that pretty much waste people's time just suing, trying to get something for free. The next one we're going to talk about is financing. A lot of people don't read the fine print. They get so excited about buying the new car that when they get down to it, well, they said the interest rate was going to be 7%, but then I read the paperwork and I'm paying 16.5%. The dealership lied to me. I'm going to sue them. First thing I asked them, is your name on the contract? Did you initial it? If you did, then unfortunately you own that car at whatever interest rate they sold it to you. You could try to do your best to refinance it, but those are your only options. Unfortunately, like I said, unless you ask the dealer for clarifications, just because you misunderstood does not make it legal grounds to sue a dealer. Now, there are a lot of dealers that are doing this, which I'll tell you, they'll sign you up for 7%, and then they'll tell you to come back in and re-sign the contract because they got to switch banks or recontract, whatever it is. Double check your paperwork, because sometimes they may have got you sold at 7%, but somebody said, hey, I'll give you an extra $600 if you sell them at 10%. So you go back in thinking no big deal, your payment's the same, you sign the contract, and you jump from 7 to 10%. These are the things that some dealers, unfortunately, will try to trick you with. When you get in there, once again, read your documentation. Nobody's going to force you to sign it. You can always tell the dealer, you know what, I'm not paying over 7%. If they say, well, we're going to take back the car, give them the car back. If they try to threaten with keeping your money, tell them that you're going to turn them into the DMV. By law, they cannot keep your down payment if you return the car, and they could not get the deal funded. So now the pressure is back onto the dealership, so they have to actually honor the 7% or give you back your money complete, and you can go get a different car. Next one we're going to talk about is the Carfax. Now, this is very important, not only for consumers, but also dealers. So both of you guys listen to this. You can actually go back, and I've actually been sued for this. I sold a car, and the car was in an accident, and the airbags were deployed. I got it for a good deal. I sold it to the customer for a good deal. I knew everything was bad, and for some reason, I printed out the Carfax, but I did not have the customer sign and initial it. So a year later, the customer tried to sell it, and everybody kept offering him thousands of dollars less because it was in an accident and the airbags were deployed. So he went to his attorney and said, hey, you know what? He lied. I want my money back. Now, I went through my documentation, and sure enough, I had the copy of the Carfax in there. I thought I was sitting pretty, but then I looked. I had no signatures on the Carfax and nothing else. So guess what? I called the customer up. I was like, well, looks like I have to buy back your car. So I went out of my way, purchased the car back. Even after doing this, even though I could have just maybe BS'd in court and said that I showed it to him, I had the printed date on the same date that I actually sold the car. But I wanted to do the right thing. I'm like, I'm just going to pay this guy, get him out of my hair. The guy still continued to try to sue me for misrepresentation, and he had loss and damages and stuff like that. And it was funny, when we got to court, he had to pay his attorney, I think like $8,000 to go there. I just went myself, and I was like, yeah, he said that the Carfax is bad. I showed it to him. Unfortunately, I didn't have a signature, so I just paid him exactly what he bought the car for. So he got to drive it for 1 year for free. So I don't see the damages. What damages are you talking about? And so for over a month, I had to go back and forth to court, and finally the judge threw it out, and the guy was upset, and he kept threatening me, well, I need to pay his legal costs. And I told him, you shouldn't have wasted your time. So unfortunately, these are some of the issues that come along with being a dealer. As you, the consumer, if you ever run into that situation where maybe the car has a rebuilt title, it has frame, different accidents, was a rental car, anything like that, by law, the dealer has to disclose this. So they need to have a signed Carfax. If you don't have a signed Carfax, you could file a complaint with the DMV. Once you file this complaint, it may take a few months, but you'll eventually be able to unwind the deal or get your money back. Now, just because you don't have the Carfax doesn't mean the dealer doesn't have the Carfax. So this is why it's very important. Anytime you do any type of dealership paperwork, everything you see in front of you that you sign, I don't care if it's something like trivial, you get a copy of every single thing. So this way you can give it to your attorneys, they can see it, and then also the DMV, if you have grounds to file a complaint with the DMV or move it towards a legal civil action. So that's your options right there. Now, the one that's been getting a lot of people pissed off lately is the fake sales price. Now, dealers have been doing this a lot lately since prices are going so high. They just want to get you in the door. So they'll put, hey, this brand new Toyota Camry is $40,000. But then when you get there, there's a $10,000 markup. There's this fee, that fee, I got to rip you off fee, I need to pay my child support fee. Like, they add about 1,000 fees on there, and by the time you're done, it's $55,000. So you came in for the $40,000 Camry, and now you're sitting around $55,000. So people are trying to sue over this, but the problem is, believe it or not, most states, the DMV is the one that pretty much writes the guidelines for advertising for dealers, and unless they specifically put something in there like, all makes and models are $40,000 or whatever else, you can't get that lawsuit going. You will waste your time and your money. I've seen hundreds of these things people go after dealerships and they never win. They spend thousands of dollars. For every maybe 1,000 people that sue the dealership, there's that one guy that gets a free car, which to me is not worth the headache, the stress of just kicking the tire around for 2 years. So false advertising is extremely hard to do. Now, if you purchase the car in that ad, and let's say the VIN number was the one that you bought and this was the price and they sold it to you for a different price and you can prove it, then you have legal grounds to sue the dealership. They either got to refund you all the money, and then you can also sue for damages. But like I said, that is a process, and you are going to have to pay an attorney thousands of dollars out. So a lot of times I tell people, suing a dealership is not the way. Believe it or not, going to the DMV and filing a complaint has far more merit, because as a dealer, I'm going to tell you guys this right now, when you file a complaint with the DMV, us dealers hate that, because when a dealership comes or when the DMV comes, they're going to say, hey, you know what? Well, now this customer's complaint that you guys defrauded them out of a sales price, they're going to come for that, but they're also going to bring the files of everybody else that's ever made a complaint against you. So let's say there's like 30, 40 small complaints, nothing major, nothing crazy, people lying about like, oh, I got, I didn't get my free floor mats, my car had a scratch on it when they said they'd fix it. They usually leave those alone, but once it comes into like title paperwork, financing, fraud, or, deceiving a customer, then the DMV jumps action. But they're going to bring all those ones, and they're going to say, well, let me see this customer's sales price. Okay, well, why'd you sell him this car? The sales price says $15K in the newspaper, but you sold him for $25. Why? This is the same VIN number. Why did you do this? And if they can't give them a good reason, then they're going to tell them they either have to give the customer back the difference, and they're going to fine the dealer. And then on top of that, most times the dealers, what they'll do is they'll say, hey, look, if you want to pay this customer off, get him out of here, that's fine. If not, I want to see documentation on all 40 of these complaints. And that will scare the hell out of every dealer. Because even though a lot of us dealers, we could be in the right, if you don't have the correct documentation signed and everything where it's supposed to be, you will lose the deal and you will lose thousands of dollars. You have to give the car back, or they have to take the car back and pay the customer money, and you get fined from the DMV. Just like me with the Carfax thing. I was 100% right. I showed the customer that it was an accident, airbags deployed, but it was my fault that my sales guys and my finance manager did not sign the documents. So I knew I was going to eat that. So guarantee you, if they pull out 40 different contracts, something's going to be missing. A piece of paper, an initial, anything. And all they have to do is have one or two pieces missing, and they call it a fraudulent contract. And just from those grounds, they can call the customer up. And I've seen people do this before too, where they'll go in looking at one deal, and then they'll get 3 or 4 deals, and they'll start calling customers. Hey, this dealership deceived you. If you want your money back, give us a call back, and we can get you your money back, or you can get another car, or they'll just pay the car off. One of my friends here in Vegas, I won't say his name, he was not a stickler for paperwork. This is very important. If you're a dealer and you're listening, every time you do a deal, you have a deal jacket. Every dealership has these. Anything the customer signs, credit apps, test drive form, copy of their driver's license, anything you get, the more documentation you have with signatures and people's faces on it and put it in your file, you are basically hedging your bet against any type of fraud going on down the road. Now with all these people crying wolf, they're buried in their cars, I guarantee you, and I've already seen a few here in Vegas, attorneys coming out of the woodworks, sue the bank, sue the dealer, get out of your high-priced car, get out of this, get out of that. And these people are going to be growing faster and faster, chasing more clients, because they know there's so many people that overpaid for their cars that are absolutely buried, that are going to do anything they can to get rid of it. And every lawyer knows that if they throw 50 deals at this one dealership, eventually 3 or 4 are going to fall through the cracks because the sales guy forgot to sign something, the customer didn't do the Carfax, maybe they forgot some sort of disclosure, whatever it is. Little things like that is what makes a fraudulent contract real, and they have to refund the customer's money. Now, I'm going to tell you on the other end what us dealers have to do. Now, like I said, unfortunately, I've been sued multiple times, and some were legit, some were not. And some of the one of the legit ones, like I said, was the Carfax thing, but I preempted that made sure I paid the customer off, and then I was free and clear. But then I get customers like these other people that sued me because the car would not pass smog after a year. There are a lot of people out there, and this is going to sound bad, they're actually gypsies. They travel all over the United States. They go in these little circles from the East Coast to the West Coast. They find dealers that are small. They don't go to big franchise stores. They go to small independent dealers that are like, that don't know a lot about paperwork. And they'll go in there and they'll say, hey, I want to buy this car. And they'll rush you and they'll rush you and they'll rush you. Oh, I got to go to work. Let me sign. And then, if you just like most sales guys, they just want to make the sale and they'll say, oh, we'll just get him back and recontract him. Not true. If you let the customer take the car and you can't get the rest of the documentation, you will get served and they will tell you that you have a fraudulent contract, that your customer lying, deceiving, whatever else. And 9 times out of 10, the courthouse and the DMV will side with the customer, will not side with the dealer. So I've had these guys show up multiple times and they're always like trying to rush me. Thank God we had a really good process. So even us knocking down paperwork in 10 minutes, they thought we missed something. And then I get those letters and it's always from the same attorneys here in Vegas. Oh, my customer, he feels defrauded. Either give us $10,000 cash plus pay my customer's car off, or we're going to court and we're going to go after your bond. They always threaten dealers with going after their bond. Now, if a dealer is shady, that is your bet to get your money back, which I'll explain that here in a little bit. But that's what this guy does. So after they basically went to court, called my bond company and said that they wanted to get the money from that, my bond company's putting pressure on me. You better deal with this in court because if we have to pay him out, we're going to do whatever, which legally they're not supposed to call. But anyways. But yeah, so I go to court. I'm like, okay, what is this guy's complaint? Well, he says that the paperwork's not right and you defrauded him and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, show me. And 9 times out of 10, I have all my paperwork, done correctly, so I don't have to worry about that. A lot of my dealer friends, unfortunately, were not as lucky. They had sloppy paperwork, they were missing things, and then they let the customer take stuff because he tried it too. I remember the one guy said that he wanted to grab something out of the folder, and I'm like, don't you ever let a customer touch the folder. You want to pull something out, copy it for them, they're more than likely to do it. They cannot take our folder from us because that's what has the signed contract to show like that we legally were allowed to run their credit. We have the signed Carfax to show that we were totally honest with, showing the vehicle and its current condition, the as-is warranty, the WEOs, all that stuff we keep in there because those are all critically important pieces of documentation. And like I said, I've gone through this a bunch of times and I've always won. I've almost lost twice, but I've never had to worry about that because usually once they start bringing out paperwork and explaining the law to the judges, because believe it or not, a lot of judges don't know the law of when it comes to used cars. So I was printing out tons of documentation to show them that like, hey, look, if you look right here, as long as the customer signs the as is and there's nothing we owe and they bought this, this, and this, there's nothing they can do. And, and the sad thing is most times, if you negotiate with the dealer, like I had some people, like I said, we don't have a crystal ball or a magic 8-ball. Things go wrong with cars. It sucks, not only for you, but as for me. Because now I'm going to have a customer saying, it's my fault, I need to step up, I need to do this. And at the same point, a lot of these dealers overpaid for cars, so now they're going to lose even more money. So it's a losing situation all the way around. Usually the best way to deal with that, all my customers that come up to me and like ask me, hey, can you help me? I'll pay for the labor, or you buy the part, I'll pay for labor, something like, or just be civil. 9 times out of 10, I go out of my way to help them. The people that come in, oh, you better give me my money back, or we're going to have problems. Guaranteed you, every dealer is going to tell you to go fuck off. Now, you can go the legal route if you want, but 9 times out of 10, it's just wasting money. So try to be civil, try to be cool at first, work with them as best you can, and see what can happen. Now, the next thing is we're going to talk about dealer bonds. Now, when you have issues with dealerships, this is the DMV's insurance policy to make sure that dealers are forthwith with doing any type of paperwork if they are committing fraud. So if a dealer sold you a car, didn't give you a title, gave you like a bad car, something like that, you're allowed to go file a complaint with the DMV. And what the DMV does is they give you their insurance and their bond information. Once you get that, you can just send a letter, or you can have an attorney send a letter to them saying, hey, your dealer sold me a car. It's been 6 months. I have not received the title. Where is my title? If I don't get it back, I want to be paid in full. And that's what the bond is there for, is to protect the public. A lot of people don't know this, but most dealers have bonds anywhere. Like here in Vegas, we have them for 100 grand. Some states are 50, 60,000. I think there's only like 1 or 2 states that are 10 grand, but that's what they're there for. Now, unfortunately, if you got like, there's these, there's a lot of these companies like in LA and Miami that are ripping people off with exotic cars. So if you get burned on a Lamborghini or Ferrari that's $200,000, $300,000, unfortunately, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. But If you buy a 2005 Toyota Corolla from a small buy here, pay here lot, and they have a $50,000 bond, well, guess what? You're getting your money back. Even if you have a $300,000 car, you can actually go after the bond for whatever you can get from them. And then some insurance policies actually have fraud provisions where they will pay people if you can prove fraud or prove intent, or sometimes they even have business insurance. When they go bankrupt, they'll pay up to, a couple $100,000 up to $1 million. So that's why the DMV has this type of information. So before you get all crazy and give an attorney $5,000 just to basically waste your time, think about the things I told you. If you have any questions, please put in the comment section below. I'll try to answer them. Usually I answer all of them in the first hour, but we'll try to go through and keep checking this. But if you can figure out what the problems you're having with this dealer and then go to the DMV and file a complaint, that is usually the first step I tell everybody. That's what you need to do. After that, you need to sit down long and hard and think, is this my fault? If it's something like I didn't understand it, I misunderstood, then unfortunately, like I said, not knowing is not legal basis for suing somebody. It sucks. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dealers that do deceptive practices, but unfortunately, it's not illegal. So that does suck. But if you can prove that to the DMV will find their ass. And 9 times out of 10, when the DMV starts threatening, the dealership will call you and say, hey, you know what do we got to do to work this out? They'd rather buy back a $30,000 car than have another check mark next to the name next to the DMV. Because once the DMV starts looking, they just know it's a numbers game. Out of all these contracts, there's going to be a handful that be screwed up, and the dealership's going to pay even more. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. Follow us on Instagram at Lucky Lopez. And if you enjoy the content, a like and subscribe would do a huge thing. We're growing extremely fast. We're about 100,000 subs away from the biggest automotive dealer channel, and I'm hoping to beat them by the end of this year. And hopefully with your guys' help, we can make it happen. So have an amazing Friday, and we'll see you soon.